Today's review, we've got a new beer from Sainsbury Supermarket. This is from Tiny Rebel. It is called Colourway King, a double IPA. But what's it going to be like? Keep watching to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to Tiny Rebel that released a new beer in Sainsbury's, just come out. Colourway King. Now it says double IPA, but when you look at the ABV, it's only 7.1%. So I'm not quite sure how they work out how they get it to a double IPA. I mean, I'm presuming that there's a brew process to make it a double IPA, but most double IPAs are pretty much come in at 8%. You do get some that go up maybe up between 8 and 8.4%. That's the sort of amount. They don't really fluctuate too much from that. But anything less than that, to me, I've seen plenty of IPAs at 7.1%. But this is it says it's a double IPA. We don't know what hops are in it. And it seems like Tiny Rebel like to release their double IPAs in supermarkets. We had that one, What's Cooler Than Being Cool, which was a recent one. That was a double IPA. That was, I think, 8%. So interesting that they're releasing more of these higher ABV beers, because it seems like a lot of breweries are going in the opposite direction and releasing more lower ABV. Certainly, the tax implications, etc., etc. But anyway, we're talking about business. We should be talking about the beer. So let's crack this open, get it in glass, and see what it's all about. The one thing with Tiny Rebel, and I'm always anticipating every time I have one, is that I find them just too thin in the mouthfeel. So I'm going to... Oh, he said he was going to do it, aggressively pour it and see what we get in terms of mouthfeel. Because I find that they're just too thin. Sometimes I think, well, do I need to give it more of an aggressive pour? Is that going to give me a better, thicker beer? Probably not. But, we'll get something that looks a bit better in the glass. So beer in a glass, well, not bad. We've got 3 nearly fingers of pretty loose white head. You can see there, lots of loose bubbles. That won't stick around long. But the colour of the beer is a lovely New England colour, I would say. Sort of a yellow straw, custardy colour. It's a bit lighter at the bottom there. I can just sort of see the edge of the glass. I mean, you can't really see it in here in the camera. But when I look at it now, I think, it looks like you look at the bottom of it and it's like it's a little bit less hazy than it is in the main body. But I think this is going to be looking at that head and looking at the way that beer sits in the glass, I think it's going to be another typical light beer. I think, a lot of these beers from Tiny Rebel, if they made the body better, they could almost be up there with some of the best supermarket beers, but the body lets it down a little bit. Let's see what the aroma's like first. Right, there's that sort of slightly perfumey aroma that has that Sabro talus, maybe. I probably would say more on the Sabro side, because I'm getting sweetness, a coconutty sort of woody coconut, pineapple, that sort of creamy mint, a real Sabro distinctive aroma. So let's taste it and see if it has got Sabro in it. Cheers, everyone. Flavour wise, it's very pleasant. Definitely Sabro. I almost get the point that Sabro it's a very dominant hop, but I'm not sure. Maybe Sabro and Citra, maybe, but lots of Sabro. Flavour's nice. It's all that Sabro stuff. You get the pineapple, you get the coconut, the sweetness, that woody coconut flavour. The lime is cutting through the flavour as well. And there is that slightly creamy mint flavour. They're just very distinctive, I think, for a Sabro hop. And so far, it's a good beer, but it is very watery and light in the mouthfeel. It's just too thin for I mean, it says it's a double IPA. With a double IPA, you expect something a little bit thicker anyway. But this is almost like, it's almost on a hybrid of Pale Ale and an IPA. I'm doing a little bit of disservice because no, it's not It's not fizzy like a pale ale, or fizzier, I should say, or carbonated that a pale ale is. Quite a soft mouthfeel, but a flavour. I mean, we've got Sabro, it's a big hitting hop, and it does stick around a little bit in terms of the flavour, but it's watery. The texture is watery, and you don't want that in an IPA. That's why you drink IPAs. You don't want watery, because you get that from a lager or a pale ale. 7.1%. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't. It's not. It doesn't taste of 7.1%. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's a very sort of easy drinking, because it's so light and so sort of thin in terms of its mouthfeel. Bit more mouthfeel, bit more wheat, oats, all that stuff. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the yeast that they use. Would make this a really good beer. It's not bad though. I mean, flavour wise, it's not bad. And I'm pretty convinced, I'm 99% convinced that this has got Sabro hop in it. And it's a nice balance of flavours with Sabro. Sometimes Sabro can be too much, but it's nicely balanced. Maybe they've realised, well, actually, to balance out Sabro, we'll make the beer a little bit less thick, a bit more thin, a bit more watery, and the Sabro will just hit and not sort of not over dominate. I don't know if that's the thought process, but I think, again, supermarket beers. But I don't think I've had a Tiny Rebel beer. I don't think I've had a Tiny Rebel. I had some birthday beers from them, but they were weird sort of flavour with a junks and all the rest of it. That was a few years ago, and they weren't great either. But most Tiny Rebel beer I have will be a supermarket beer, because they've got lots of beers in supermarkets. But I've never had one that I thought, yeah, that's got a really great mouthfeel. Even good beers. I mean, Tiny Rebel, we've got the Equalizer, that's still in there. 505, that's still in there. We've got that Hadouken, that was pretty good. I think that had a better mouthfeel, but again, that was one. The Summer Slam one, that was a reasonable beer as well, let down a little bit by its mouthfeel. And certainly the other double IPA that I mentioned before, the What's Cooler Than Being Cool, was, I think, a nice flavoured beer, but just too thin and light. They got that mouthfeel right, they could absolutely dominate supermarkets. I think they could be up there with the top supermarket beers, because I think of all those beers and I'm thinking, yeah, they're all tasted pretty good, but they've all been let down by the mouthfeel. This one, again, look at it. It's just, I don't know, it just looks a little bit sorry for itself. Yeah, I mean, the flavours are nice. I like it. I like the flavours. How am I going to score it? Well, let's try and do some scores. So, hit the scores. Okay, the scores are in for Colourway King, a double IPA, but it's only 7.1% from Tiny Rebel. We're not sure of the hops, but I'm pretty sure Sabro is in there in some form or another. Yeah, it's not bad. Let down by its mouthfeel. The scores, I think, are fair. Starting with aroma. Appearance. Flavour. Value for money, again, I forgot the price. It was under 4. I'm sure it was a 375 one, and again, if you buy 4 for free. So even though it's 7.1% and it says it's a double IPA, I still think that's pretty good value. So yeah, value for money. And finally, my overall experience. That score is probably a bit lower. I think I thought about the overall experience. I thought, yeah, I'm going to put it a bit lower because the mouthfeel. If mouthfeel was up there, it'd be a couple of points more. The flavour would probably be better. That'd be a couple of points more. And it would get highly recommended, but it only gets 77 out of 100. I say only. That's not a bad score for a supermarket beer. It's recommended. Really interested to know what people think of the Tiny Rebel beers. Have you had this one? Have you had the other double IPA? Have you had the Smash, whatever it was called. I think that was also in Tesco's as well. And then they've got, you know, Sainsbury's have got, as I said, three of them that have been in there for at least a couple of years. Well, at least a year, maybe even a couple of years. The Equalizer, the 505. But let me know what you think of Tiny Rebel. I sort of put them a little bit with Brewdog. And I think that's unfair because I think their beers are actually better than Brewdog. They went for a stage where every beer they were releasing had loads of adjuncts in it. But now, I mean, maybe they listened to this channel and they thought, yeah, Rocker says we shouldn't have adjuncts in our beer. We should make normal beer. And they're doing that because all these recent beers have got no adjuncts in. They've got like added juice in them or added marshmallows or whatever rubbish you could put in them. They've made proper craft beer. Get the mouthfeel right. Get the body a little bit better than this. And Tiny Rebel could be the top supermarket beer manufacturer, whatever you want to call it, brewer. That's what you want to say. Yeah, they could be the best brewery in the supermarkets. And I think, you know, they've got the brand name, they've been in there a while. You know, you think of your Cali Pals and your Club Tropicals and all that. They've been around for, well, when I started drinking craft beer 5 years ago. And they've got good brand recognition. They've got quirky sort of, you know, they've got the old quirky little figure there. You've got a little Tiny Rebel. They're a Tiny Rebel. They're a bit like the branding ethos is a bit like Brewdog in that they're anti-establishment and they're rebels in the beer thing. But I think that their beer is not quite as good. But these recent ones, they're getting damn close to making good beer. But anyone had a Tiny Rebel beer not in a supermarket? Does such a thing exist? I wonder if that's going to be pretty good. I don't know. I think this isn't bad. 77 out of 100. It's recommended. But let me know if you've had it and what you think of it. What you think of Tiny Rebel. I mean, if you've been drinking craft beer for a while, then you've probably been drinking or know about a Tiny Rebel and have drank Tiny Rebel stuff for quite a long time. So do you think their stuff's got better? Has it got worse? Has it stayed the same? I still think like your Cali Pals and your Club Tropicals are very standard supermarket beers. There's not much to them, but they're all right, you know. But let me know in the comments. I'm interested to hear what you have to think about Tiny Rebel. Hope you've enjoyed the review. I'm starting to go on a little bit, so I will stop it now. And please like and subscribe. And of course, 2 other things you've got to do is drink a craft beer and keep on rocking.